Welcome to the WineDown, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the WineDown. I'm Nick, and with me I have
Scott.
And we're together again, Scott.
We are. we are out in the open, in the sun.
In the sun. Look at that.
We thought we should take advantage of that while it was happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, importantly, where are we? What are we drinking?
We're at the Harbour Diggers near the beach, and I know you can't hear this because we're filtering the noise in the background, but those are actually waves rolling in.
They are, and cars driving past.
And cars driving past. Yeah, okay. Well, that's a good point too. Hey, we have a. Let me go back a step here. 17th of April was World Malbec Day.
Aha, there we go.
And because it was World Malbec Day, I figured that we should try to get a Malbec. But of course, they'd actually sold out of all the Malbec when we got here. So we ended up getting
all that build up on Malbec, and we don't have a Malbec, right?
That's right. They ran out of a few things. Actually, it's very surprising. So we actually got a Shalimar Shiraz. It's a lovely little Sepal drop. This is a Victorian sort of vineyards, Shiraz, and the Grampians, Heathcote area. And they've put this together, this same blend, same vineyard since 1953.
Wow, that's very nice.
It is
very nice.
It is. It's quite drinkable.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to say no to that.
No,
very yummy.
No. So anyway, yeah. So we are here in the lovely warm sun.
And today we're going to talk about something a bit different, aren't we? We're going to talk about the ethics of automation.
Yeah, look, it's something interesting. I read an article during the week, and it just sort of I read a lot of articles, and most of them are sort of a bit of this, bit of that, blah 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 blah. But this just sort of piqued the curiosity a little bit.
This is that one it was in Redmond magazine, if I remember. Brian Posey wrote it.
Yes. And he basically started to look, is IT automation unethical?
That's interesting, isn't it? We've done quite a few of the wind downs on why you should automate your business and why you should automate your job. And
yes.
yet here's Brian turning around and saying, what are the ethics of all of that? Which I think is quite fascinating.
Yeah, so I thought we should address that and probably put a few comments in there and see what happens.
I think it should. I've certainly got my views on it, being an automation sort of guy, but I'd be interested to know yours, being a MBA sort of CEO sort of guy.
Yeah, well, okay, well, that's interesting.
So
yeah, let's look at that.
So what's automation? Let's start there.
Okay.
What's automation? It's taking a process that you're meant to do or you should do as part of the business, and it's getting the computer to do it, right?
Yeah. Again, look, by computer, we could mean a robot, or we could mean a bit of, but robots even so are computer controlled in most cases.
Yep.
So we'll have a look at that. But it's really getting a bit of machinery or equipment to do something that otherwise would have been done by a person.
Okay. All right. So, and that could be anything. That could be writing a script which goes in. I know the example Brian used in his article was writing a script which goes and checks servers to see if they've got a problem rather than doing it by hand.
That's right, like an IT technical role where they've actually worked out every day I've got to do this and this and this and this. This is getting pretty boring. How can I make this automated? I'm just going to write some code to go and do this check for me and spit out an error if there's a problem.
So that's code, but it could just be as simple as in your Outlook client, setting an automatic rule to email each of your clients every week, because your job is you're meant to reach out to each one of your clients every week.
That's right, and all of a sudden you've now got the computer doing the reach out for you, and you can just sort of sit back and work out, maybe this is the message, maybe that's the message, but...
Yep. Yeah, and you're not spending a day sending emails.
No.
So suddenly, this is the scenario, right? We've suddenly got this person who's hired for... And Brian makes a really good point of, are you hired by the hour or are you hired on a salary? And they're very different things. And
that links into, are you producing an outcome, or as in, are you hired to achieve a certain amount of goals on a monthly sort of basis, or are you in there for a certain specific task by the hour that you need to be achieving?
And I think that's fascinating. So I look at it in my team. I've got developers.
Yes.
And I hire developers to complete tasks.
Yeah, okay.
I don't care whether it takes them 5 minutes or 50 hours. I do, probably, but we work it out. But I hire them to complete the tasks. Whereas if you're on a help desk, you're required to actually be there between certain hours. And if the work comes in, you're meant to do things, right?
Well, that's right, and I'll tell you, this whole work from home thing has changed that model a little bit, where how would you know if someone is actually there doing the job, or if someone has automated part of their job and the computer is doing it for them? Because I have seen some of the help desk systems that are coming out now with, look, we will do that level 1 support for you. It's in our AI code.
Yes.
And it sort of solves maybe half of the issues, but
Yep.
you sort of think, okay, that's not great, it's only half, but hey, it's half you don't have to deal with.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I've
Okay.
written AIs that did that before using historical help desk data
Yeah.
to go and automate how your help desk works, and that's very doable. And then you've got the scenario where, well, you still need people to be available to pick up the phone and stuff.
You do.
But they might not be doing any work half the time. Is that still acceptable?
Well, in theory, they're now doing more complex work all of the time. If you work out that you've got, say, 1,000 calls coming in a month in the service desk, and half of those could be removed by a computer asking half a dozen questions and putting up predefined answers, and
Yep.
that satisfies the need of the people coming in with the calls.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you don't necessarily need as many people behind the scenes, but you've still got half of those calls that are being escalated.
Yes.
It means they're more continually working on harder things now.
Oh, and now you need to hire different people. You're not
Yes.
just hiring call takers, you're hiring your level 2, level 3 people. It's fascinating. I've got to use an example. I've got a friend who runs a law practice, a fairly big one. And he went to one of the big universities in the US to study computational law.
Okay.
One of the things you learn when you leave uni and you join a law firm is one of the things you have to look up is precedents.
Ah, yes.
So there's
yes.
a case coming up, look up all the other cases
Yeah.
which are kind of like this. And so off they go and research that for a couple of weeks and come back with the answers useful for a case. But computers do that way better. So if we get the computers doing that, where's the next generation of lawyers coming from?
Well, you know what? I think the computer may be able to do that, but the lawyers that came through with that precedent-searching mentality are actually better lawyers.
They are, but if you're not doing that anymore, where do you find those better lawyers now?
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting point.
Just diving off on a
Okay,
tangent there,
okay,
but
okay.
I think it's really important. Well, automation's really good and it speeds a bunch of things up. You know, sometimes we hire juniors because we want them to learn and become seniors.
Yes.
Not we're just hire. It's not all about. So, from an ethical point of view, it's not all about the job that you want to get done. Business isn't
Correct.
always all about the dollars and cents at the end of the day. We're also trying to create those senior people by hiring juniors, and that makes a lot of sense.
There
blah,
has to
blah,
be some sort of end game involved.
blah. Yeah.
So look at it this way: if I get a computer to do my work for me,
Yes.
would you care as long as I got the job done?
So my instant visceral gut reaction is no. Of course, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And
Easy on paper.
and I think it's easy on paper. If I have so it's all about change. If I have an unchanging industry,
Of course.
which
Yeah,
there aren't
yes.
any, but if I have an unchanging industry and I hire somebody to do a job and I give them a computer as part of their job and they get their computer to do their entire job and they stay at home all day in their pajamas, but the job's still getting done as well as it should be and it's all working, why would I care is probably my answer.
So
Explains it a bit better.
in theory, you wouldn't care today,
No.
but in 6 months' time or a year's time, you would start caring because all of a sudden that role is not very efficient.
Well, I don't know. It depends on the role. Right.
Okay.
So if I hire, it's and I think it's about how you pay people. If I hire someone on a salary, and they have to work 80 hours a week to get the job we've tasked them to get done, then they have to work 80 hours a week.
Okay.
If they have to work 20 hours a week to get the job done, then they work 20 hours a week. I want the job done. I'm paying I pick a number out of the air, 80 grand a year to get a job done, which theoretically is worth more to me than 80 grand a year.
Okay.
Okay. And if somebody can do that and not do anything, well, there's a couple of interesting things. If they've written a computer program to do it, I own the computer program because in every employment contract I own the IP. So I
Right.
should discover that and immediately dismiss them. Of course, I wouldn't do that. That's the type of people I wouldn't dismiss. I'd
Okay.
actually get them to go and automate everybody else's jobs, and I'd dismiss them.
Yeah, well, in theory, hopefully you wouldn't dismiss anyone because you take that operational knowledge that a lot of people that have been there for a long time have got in their heads, and they know where the issues are in the business. They know that it takes 2 hours to get a widget from here to here or to
Yep.
process or whatever, and they can take you through every single step in that process. At which point,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you get them to document that?
But I think if you look at things like car manufacturing,
okay,
which has gone from very, very bespoke car manufacturing in the early days through to Ford creating his production lines,
yes,
through to robots working on the production lines and very, very few people.
yes,
That's part of the Industrial Revolution. If you took people who were spinning in little cottages, spinning yarn and making fabrics,
okay, yes.
and then you do it commercially in a larger scale, you need less people, you've got machines doing it. This is just a continuation of that.
Well, the ultimate issue is you can do whatever you like in your business, but if you don't do something to make yourself more efficient, I can guarantee you a competitor will, and all of a sudden they're producing what you're producing for either half the price or at twice the speed or something like that. And
I think it's truly fascinating. This is a topic that's very dear to my heart and very interests me a lot. And I think I'm looking at your notes you wrote, because Scott always writes notes for these. And one of the things is he said, and I'll quote it, we don't mean outsourcing, we mean doing it cheaper.
that's correct.
And it's very interesting. I've worked with quite a lot of companies that have outsourced those types of tasks. But when you actually go into the outsourcer and peel back the covers, they're not doing that very well.
No, everything I've seen in outsourcing says they are grossly inefficient.
But cheaper labour.
They are just working off a lower cost base, which makes it more effective at a dollar point.
Cheaper per hour.
Yeah,
it might take them 4 times as long to do it. As long as they're 5 times cheaper, you go.
The ultimate cost is there, and you've just got to work out what is the right fit for the process. And,
Wow.
and this is a very important thing. I see outsourcing as creating a better taxi,
Yep.
whereas I see the automation as being creating the Uber.
Yeah, and I think that's the trick. I think with automation, you don't just do the same process better. You can do different processes faster.
Yes.
The other thing is, if you look at quality control standards like ISO 9000, ISO 9000 talks about repeatability of your processes. Well, goodness sake, if I've got a computer doing it, it's going to be exactly the same every time.
That's right. You generate that error every time.
Every
on
time,
demand.
same error, always the same. Yeah, no, absolutely.
What is it to err is human, to really foul things up requires a computer?
No, it certainly does. It certainly does. But I think for more traditional managers, this is a real massive ethical quandary.
It is. Oh, it is. And look, I just speaking on the outsourcing bit, I do remember the Verizon employee that outsourced their job.
Yes.
And this is when the Verizon themselves weren't actually outsourcing, but this particular person in their IT role had worked out that they could actually get someone else to do their role, and they found a company in China. This was in 2013, I think it was. And so they organised with this company in China. They documented their role. They actually typed it all out, measured, put the processes down, said, every day I need you to have someone do these steps and to take care of this, and if these problems happen, do this, if these problems happen, do this, and so forth. And it cost him about 20% of what his actual salary was.
Wow. What a return.
And,
What a return.
to the point where it even actually, and this actual person in China would VPN into the company's network, into Verizon's network, take over this person's computer and do the work remotely that way.
Wow.
So they can actually see activity on this machine. He actually FedExed his RSA token across.
See, there we go. Now we're on the edges of, because that's not ethical at all.
No, I mean, this is the blurry bit. However, this worked so well and for so long, they ended up taking a second job because it was all remote work. He was doing it from home.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's working for 2, then 3 companies doing the same thing, getting paid these 6-figure salaries at each one.
Very cool.
to do the role. Eventually he got found out, and he was tossed in jail and fired and blah, blah, blah. But I just thought it was quite impressive at the time.
It is quite impressive, because if you were a business, if I was contracting to Verizon, as long as I lived within the word of my contract, I could probably get third parties to do the role.
You could.
Depending on the agreement.
There are some issues around, look, if you're going to outsource it to China and maintain a VPN into the corporate network from a different
Of a
country.
network service provider. Yeah, okay. So there's
There's
those
some
things,
privacy issues, there's
Yeah.
some confidentiality issues, you got to be careful that you're only as good in any role as any outsourcer that you use to provide it. And
Yep.
they've got to be bound by the same terms and conditions that you are to make the role work.
So it is interesting. So far we've talked about IT people doing this, and I
Okay.
get that, right? They've got the skills, they've got the capability, they're going to do it.
Yes.
But I was reading an article on LinkedIn this morning about a sales guy, right? And he was given a bunch of leads at the beginning of the month, and would set up meetings with them and go and meet them towards the end of the month. That kind of how it worked out. And he was getting, I think, a 30% no-show rate.
Okay.
So what he decided to do was he created some automation in Outlook, nothing special, that every couple of days emailed these prospects something that he thought they find interesting as part of the process. That actually totally changed his no-show rate down to about 2%. And
Wow.
by automating, by true automation, it's not just automating IT, it's automating non-IT stuff as well, right? He actually changed the business metric. Now, what's interesting is he only changed it for himself. Whereas what you'd hope in your business is somebody would come up with this and change it for everybody, because imagine that effect across a sales team.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking about that. Or being a bit cynical now, I'm thinking all of a sudden I don't just have to get rid of all the spam from the people I don't know. I've got to get rid of the spam from the people I've agreed to have meetings with as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh well. Okay.
So so we're now starting to see, rather than guys like database analysts, because they've automated their roles to within a hair's breadth of.
Yeah. Look, there's not a lot of. Well, there is a bit of complexity in databases, but a lot of this has been addressed with automation many years ago.
Yep.
To the point where a DBA or a database administrator
doesn't administer databases anymore.
No, you don't really need a full-time DBA to really make sure your databases keep running. And a lot of that's done by code these days.
Yep.
You do need one who's quite good to be able to fix the issues. When your script fails or when an error pops up and says, hey, this one's got a problem, you need to fix this.
But very few of the smaller organisations need somebody on full-time staff who can do
Oh,
that.
no, that's right. Like on
You need access to someone, but you don't need someone on full-time staff.
On the one day a month when the backup fails, okay, we've got to go fix something, but you don't need someone there 30 days to fix the backup fails. And that's the whole thing about it. And that DBA style role has been, that's fairly well done.
Yep.
But look, you end up making that role more generic, and you instead of having all these people in these little simple roles just doing, I just got to do this every day and make sure this works, blah, 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 and if it doesn't work, I've got to tell someone. Mm-hmm. You've now got you now are responsible for all these other different systems as well.
Yep.
Because the computer's going to do all the checks, you just have to fix them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that is the kind of change and the difference going on. So,
interesting.
So that's cool, but if you look at that, especially in SMB, right, roles are bigger than just do this one thing and outsource it or automate it. In enterprise, I get it. In SMB, you have to do a whole bunch of different things, which is kind of interesting. But
I just think in enterprise, I mean, many years ago, I did go into like an enterprise client, and at the time we were installing the virtues of tape libraries. Nothing overly fancy, but little sort of robot arms that would come in and say you could put 20 blank tapes in the robot. It'll come in and swap the tape in the drive, put the new one in.
Suddenly the backup guy's gone.
Yeah, and there's this guy in the back of the room gets upset at me and starts to go, well, hang on, that's my job.
No, you wait. For years in my career, I used to do systems management. My job was getting rid of IT administration, and I sold to IT administration. I used to go, whole teams would get upset with me.
But this is it. The issue is not so much around, hey, that's my job. The issue is around, how do we take all that corporate knowledge in your head and use it in a more productive way to not have to worry about the little things that are happening?
And that's what the business wants, right? That's what the business... And I think that's what's interesting is when you're sitting inside a role inside a business, it's hard to see the bigger picture around your role.
It is. And I mean, let's say you've got the Tesla car, and I've seen the new Tesla factory there.
Yes.
They've just put into Germany, I think it is. And there's a nice little video going around
You might
online.
want to put the wine in the shade, Scott.
Oh,
That's getting
wine
a little,
in the shade. That's
getting a little warm.
We'll sort that out. But it's fairly automated. You got a person every now and then just making sure that the right part turns up to the right stage at the right time and that sort of thing. But it's fairly automated. If I took you to a Tesla showroom and I said, here's an automated car that's come out, and look, here's 100 of them, you pretty much guarantee they're all the same. Whereas if I said, and your other choice is this other car over here, it takes like 4 times as long to make. It's all done by hand. Every one is unique because they're all handcrafted.
I don't want a unique car. I want a car which is works and is maintainable. And,
Okay.
And Jim, who we work with, who has a Tesla, I think it's like 4 years old, and he's just gone for his first service.
Yeah, you don't need to service them. Well, there's no parts to service.
No,
It's
good
only,
point.
was it
20
14
moving parts or something stupid, yes.
Yeah. So it's when you think about that, then there's not really that much. Having said that, it's had like 100 software upgrades.
Yes, yeah, no, good point. But what's interesting about that is if you can automate your role, if you're sitting there and you go, I can automate everything I do, then your role's probably for the chopping block.
It is, and you should really be thinking about, if my role is automatable, I should start reskilling in some other areas. And perhaps not another area that's then going to be automated.
Or maybe reskill in the ability to automate my role.
Well, that's it. And I'll tell you what, there is a global shortage of business analysts. There is a global shortage of project managers.
Right, it's a scary shortage, right? There's just none around. So that type of thing, being able to look at a business problem and come up with a solution, even if you don't actually have to know the technology that deeply, people who do, but business analysis is a cracking role, and there's lots of opportunities for it.
It is, and guess who's got the best mind for the business analysis part?
Someone who's done the business.
The person who's been there for a long time doing the role. They understand the role.
Yeah.
Okay, the computer's just automated it, but hey, let's pick your brains about how this is going to work and how would you make this more efficient? What would you do? Document that process.
How do you not be just another taxi? How do you be the Uber of the taxi industry? Yeah.
Redefine yourself as the Uber.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So it's valuable is understanding your role in some real depth and working out how you automate it from there.
And I guess the other thing is that if you're the one automating the roles who has learnt how to document the business processes, how to look at the business and work out where the efficiencies are, that role's generally worth a lot more to a business than the role that was just automated.
Well, the multiplier of automating roles and reassigning headcounts to higher value activities. See, I didn't say getting rid of people. See,
no, it's not about that. It really isn't about that.
And it really isn't.
But this is the thing, though, that you can sort of think it is, and if you go down that path of not automating because of that, that's fine. I understand that. But everybody else is going to just start to overrun you in the market.
Yep.
They're going to come in with the faster product or the more efficient product or we can have whatever colour you want in a quarter of the time because we've automated that. We know what's involved in that. So
and I think lots of things I say about this, but if you do a job or part of your job involves copying data from one screen to another screen,
yes,
that bit of your job's going to be automated. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's going to be automated pretty soon.
Yes, I remember when they used to send the old phone books across to the Philippines where people would type them in to be able to create mailing lists that people would then resell. And literally, here's a 1,000-page phone book or whatever it is, or someone just sits there and literally types all the details into a database, and then they sell the database. Along came the scanner.
Yes.
And guess what happened with that?
The guys who wrote the phone book went, why don't we just sell the data directly?
Oh, yeah, and that's just it. So the scanner is to some degree the more efficient taxi. It's doing the job more efficiently, but just sell the raw data. I mean, who cares? There's your Uber model, and that entire section just disappeared.
It did, almost overnight. That's fascinating, Scott. That was really interesting. So ethically, I think we need to automate more and more jobs. I think
we do, and take people on the journey. We train, redevelop skills, and use the business knowledge in more productive ways.
And also, I think if we get staff member managers to automate their job, let's reward them.
Oh, absolutely.
And get them to automate the next guy's job.
Exactly.
That's a cracking skill. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Scott. That's been awesome.
Thank you, Nick. That's wonderful.
Cool. And do remember, if you do like what you see, please give us a like. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment if you'd like us to discuss a topic.
That's great.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks. Everyone. See ya. Bye-bye.